Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Cecilia de Martino, naturopathic doctor in Waterloo, Ontario. And today I'm going to be interviewing Juliana Lehman. She's a holistic nutritionist. We're going to be talking about the quarantine 15, difficulties maybe keeping the weight off during this pandemic. So welcome, Juliana. It's really nice to
Thank
have
you.
you.
Such a
So
pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Juliana, tell me a little bit about yourself, how long you've been a holistic nutritionist, and what brought you to do that.
Absolutely. So I always say that nutrition found me rather than I found nutrition. And really was like love at first sight in 2005 when I immigrated from Brazil to Canada and I studied at the University of Guelph. And I fell in love hard with nutrition and I really kind of changed the direction of my career. Originally, I did 2 years in veterinary medicine. So I was going to be a vet. And
Oh,
I came from Brazil, we moved to the city we did because of the proximity to Guelph and the vet school. So it was
right.
quite interesting how I changed gears as time went on.
That's very
Uh,
different. Yeah.
yeah, totally. And I think it was like my love and passion for animals really that started. But nutrition wasn't a huge component of vet medicine. So it was just like a normal transition into where I am today. Yeah, so that's
Understand.
kind of like how I
Wow.
fell in love with it.
That's awesome. And so what's happening in your practice now, with how do you see your clients? Do you do video conferencing? How does it look like to see you?
Absolutely. So it's interesting because if you go back to 2013 and 14, at that time, so this year is my 10th year in the nutritional field.
Wow.
And in 2013, I started the practice part time while working as a nutritionist in the corporate side of things online. So when COVID hit, in like March break time, and the clinic decided to close temporarily, to keep
Right.
everybody safe. It was like I just brought it back to how it used to be. So transitioning online for me was actually not too difficult because I had gone through the, growing pains back then, right? So majority of what I've been doing has been through Zoom,
Mhm.
right? And
Great.
some clients prefer the phone, but I've been very lucky to be able to continue moving forward and supporting
Wonderful.
people. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. Yeah. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing most of these days with regards to, having to socially isolate and figure out sort of eating well and all of that?
Absolutely. I'll say the major two. And the first one is actually really interesting because of my background of being born and raised in Brazil, where
Hmm.
a large percentage of the population does not have food security, right? And a lot of
Right.
times here in Canada, we have the abundance of food. And sometimes that becomes the problem for some people.
Problem.
It's too much and too easy. And I think now with majority of people just not being able to, hop into a store to grab a fresh item whenever we want to,
Yeah.
having to plan ahead. And in our household, we are shopping every other week. So last night was shopping day, was so tiring because you're going to all the stores and all the
Yeah.
cleaning and all the, extra procedures. So I think
Hmm.
not being able to just grab things on the go and so on has put a lot of stress on people because it's a shift in lifestyle, right? When you're cooking
Absolutely.
almost every meal at home. Some people
Yeah.
now are quarantining with bigger families, so they're cooking for more people, and you have to plan it ahead. So I did like a math to show somebody on a workshop I gave a couple weeks ago, and I said, if you were to eat your 3 meals and one snack per day, and you're
Yeah.
preparing a menu for 2 weeks, you're planning 56 meals ahead. That's crazy, right?
Wow.
Even for
That's
professionals, that's
crazy.
crazy. So I think that has been definitely number one stressor or change in how we do things.
Mm.
And the second one I would say is the added level of stress, right? Of the unknown, of for some people, financial stress and their career stress.
That's
And I
true.
think the coping mechanisms that comes with the alcohol and the comfort foods like your sugary and salty treats that are addictive. So I'd say those have been in lack of movement because some people have been home more and lower in motivation. So those have been the bigger two that I've
Big
seen.
time, exactly. It's a challenge also in our household, right? And you're not really going to the stores often for many reasons. Often there's a lineup or, and you just want to go once every week or every 2 weeks. And so then it does become about, planning ahead, because it's so easy to say, if you're not working right now or whatever, and then you're sitting on the couch, you're watching Netflix or something, and it's just that easy food, right? That what's easily accessible in the fridge that doesn't need a lot of prep time. And that's where we get, I think, into trouble. So I think having things set out ahead of time makes a lot of sense to avoid some of that. And then speaking of that, so what are some, recommendations that you, just for the general person to say, okay, you know what, I'm a snacker, and, especially in the evenings, right? You're like, okay, kids are in bed or whatever, and you want to put your feet up and you want to relax. Any ideas on, what is an easy snack to have that's not going to put on the weight, basically?
Yeah. And I would say absolutely. And there's different strategies there. I would say base it on the person's dietary lifestyle, right? So I'll try to give a couple options there. So if somebody say, and I on purpose don't promote any specific dietary style in my work. I work with the person determining what is the best one for them. But I do know that a lot of people have, right? Like at least they're either practicing or they have been guided in that direction. So I'll kind of give you the two extremes, and then people can find something in between for them. So let's just say somebody that's doing something like a vegan diet, for example, right? They're really looking to stay away from your animal products and your dairy and so on. I have some recipes. Most of my recipes are actually in my Instagram page. So the couple of things I'm going to mention can be found there. And one that if somebody's craving something sweet, right? My two go-tos, usually it's either, if I base it on myself, either something like a creamy ice cream or something more chewy, like peanut butter cup type of thing. So I have both recipes, the healthy version of it. So I have this like 2-minute mango sorbet that you can just make with a blender, like 3 ingredients on my page, which is one of the newer recipes. And if you scroll down a little lower, I have my healthy version of a peanut butter cup. And in the recipe, like you can use real cacao powder, right? With a lot of the magnesium and antioxidants, which would make it vegan. If somebody doesn't have that and they're, not vegan per se, you can use cocoa powder as well to make it. But it's super easy. All you need is like little muffin tins in the freezer, and it becomes something that you can make ahead. And if you're sitting there and you feel, I'm really craving something like feels like a treat, that is a super rich recipe that some people really like. For that recipe in particular, if you were to remove the maple syrup and put a little bit of, say, stevia, then the keto crowd could also benefit because it obviously is high in fat. So that is like a nice one. I also have on the website something else that's popular, which is a recipe for sort of like the protein energy balls, but I crafted one without dates, right? Because a lot of them have dates, a lot of sugar with dates, right? So I crafted this one, and I do use collagen powder in it, but of course it may not be in everybody's pantry, right? So just omit, and if somebody uses protein powder, maybe put that in there. Be flexible, right, with those like ingredients that you may not have. But it's nice because again, you make where's the camera? You make the little protein ball, and then you can just keep in the freezer and take one out like 5 minutes before you want to eat it, and it just fills you up because of the fiber content that I sneak it in. That's a great
idea. No, it's a great idea, right? Because it's like things that you can make that are not too difficult, that ideally you kind of have in your pantry already, and then you can easily sort of grab and go when you feel like something, without hopefully overindulging either, because too much of anything is probably not great. But no, those are great tips. And then you were kind of alluding to my second question around the different diets, and there is because I know in my practice, right, like it's something that I don't say struggle with, but have to determine. And sometimes it can be a bit of a trial and error maybe, but maybe you have some insight on this about, the vegan diet, which is basically no animal products, which means, no dairy, no meat, no fish, it's really just rich of legumes and grains and vegetables is usually, I think, or even soy, right? That vegan diet. And then on the other sort of, I don't say extreme, but on the other side, there's the, the paleo diet, where there's no legumes and there's no grains, and it's really just, it's vegetables with protein. And then, the keto diet, where it's much higher in fat, much lower in, in carbs, but still has the dairy in that one, but no dairy in so basically it can be really confusing for a lot of people to determine what might be the best diet for me. What kind of strategies or advice would you give to someone who wants to maybe explore different ones?
Absolutely. And that is a topic I love so much. I really do.
Awesome.
Because like you said, there's so much confusion out there, right? So the two things before I answer that I would like just to kind of squeeze in there. So the first one is that anytime we make a significant dietary change, right? So say somebody's going from like your standard American diet into say either a vegan or a keto diet, most people after the initial detox phase feel better. And I say that's primarily because you're probably removing a lot of those stressors from before, right? So that's kind of like almost like a benefit no matter what, as long as you're going in the right direction. Now, the problem that I see with that is that then people get a little too, fixated on that label, right? So let's just say that you want to do a vegan diet or a keto diet. Let's just call them the extremes for right now. Right. It works for a bit, and sometimes if it's not the right diet for you, it will stop working, but people insist on because they want to make it work for them, right? So usually what I say is that trial and error phase, we have to honor that, because if it is not the right approach for you, your body is going to tell you, but we have to listen, right? So in terms of myself, like I've tried veganism, I tried vegetarianism. I come from a family of vegetarians for many generations. So that was always like instilled on us. Like we grew up just knowing how to eat that way. Right now, what I would say, I experimented with keto because I always try something before promoting. And when it became super popular, I did notice the nutrition community going super against it. People are super polarized. And I pride myself into always seeing both sides, giving you both sides and helping you determine what is best for you, right? I think nothing is right and wrong. It's right for you at that particular time. So I think the number one strategy is not to be too fixated on the label and really go through the trial and process with a curiosity mindset rather than I need to make this work mindset, right?
You got it. I love that. I love that. Exactly. Right. It's sort of keeping that, open mind. I'm the same way where I'm like, okay, let's try it and see how you feel. Anything I think short term is not going to be dangerous. Right. And then figuring it out from there. Yeah.
And I do have vegan clients and keto clients, right? So that shows you that like I'm truly not biased in that sense. Awesome. However, I think the issue sometimes that I'll tell you what the issues with the two groups.
Yeah, please.
The issue that I see with the veganism avenue is if somebody is, switching to a heavily plant-based diet, they're probably going to be consuming much more fiber than ever before, right? And especially people go more on the sort of raw vegan aspect. So they're talking a lot of raw vegetables. If their gut health isn't so that they can actually support it, or even a lot of the legumes and so on with the lectins, technically, if your gut health is strong, you can handle that. But some people may jump too fast, too soon without that foundation, right? So I see digestive distress and stuff, that it's not the diet that's the problem, it's the gut, right? So having to go there and match your, I don't know, my camera is, and matching the gut health is key. On the keto side, if people jump into it too quickly and they go through what they call the keto flu, right? Like the nickname of that huge adaptation process. You're asking your body to basically switch a lot of biochemistry pathways, right? And if you jump in too fast without, getting to the process, I've seen people when they come in after get really ill. And I've seen people come in after stopping the diet and regaining 30 pounds in like such a short period of time, right? So all of those things can be done and can be done well. But anything that we jump in too fast or exited too fast, like you're probably giving the body a lot of trouble to kind of sort through. And there could be some consequences, especially in terms of regaining weight or digestive upsets, right? So it's just easing off into it, being consistent and listening to your body. If it's not agreeing with you, say you're getting stomach pain or you're constipated or you're getting diarrhea, it's telling you something, right? And that's usually what I watch for as we transition.
No, that's great. That's really good advice. Absolutely. It's about listening to our bodies and even using our intuition as to what might make sense. I find too, I mean, just to, even if someone's like, okay, I just want to do a small adjustment to my diet. And I don't know if you agree, but I usually say, you know what, start with, the sugars, the refined sort of carbs, the white flours, the white sugars, because those have a lot of research to show that the ill effects, as well as dairy for a lot of people, can be. I find that even just doing those two things to start can sometimes bring a lot of positive changes in the body. Would you agree? And then from there, kind of tweaking and seeing, am I a person that does tolerate a higher carb diet, or should it be lower, and what are my blood sugar levels and all of that, and also to see, well, am I even losing weight, or how are my clothes fitting, right? Like what do you do to tell if, other than my digestion feels good on this diet, what are some other telltale signs that you're on the right track?
Absolutely. And on the sugar side of things, I think it's really absolutely correct and very important. And what I do at the clinic is that I have a protocol that I call the carb tolerance protocol. So we do a little bit of biohacking, which I think is really cool. And then I teach people how to use the glucometer, right? That you don't have to be a diabetic to have access. So you can just go to a pharmacy and purchase it. And we have a specific measuring protocol, and then I give them I have like a 14-week recipe set that tests different foods. So we test a lot of things, like not just like your refined stuff, but even oats and sometimes lentils and quinoa. And each couple of days, we test a different food in a specific portion that it will be what they would eat, right? And then I half that portion the next day to see, because sometimes I've seen people reacting to quinoa like crazy, and you would think, oh, that's a good food, but now quinoa is used in flour form in so many things, and people are using that as a marketing claim for healthy, right? And I'm not saying it's not healthy, but for some people it does raise blood sugar, right? For some people it does cause digestive upset. So every food is thing you need to, in my opinion, like if you're really going to craft the perfect plan for you for that time, to do a little biohacking, measuring your blood sugar and seeing how that specific food impacts you. Right?
I love that. I think that's a great strategy. You're right. Like checking your blood sugar just to see, well, how do I react with that food? Because for one person, that food is a healthy food. And for another person, that healthy food is not great for them because it raises their blood sugar levels. Do you have them then test sort of right after they eat? Is there a certain time that you do that? Is it like an hour after they eat, or what do you like? Do they have to pick their finger a lot of times? Like if I'm a
three times
wanting to do this. Okay.
3 times for the day. But now, before you eat the food, an hour after and 2 hours after. And then we have like guidelines and things of what we want to see. And then I help them interpret that. Now, for people that don't want to do the finger, there's the new, the Libre,
yes. Freestyle Libre.
Freestyle Libre, right?
On the arm.
And what I love about that one is actually that one, you don't have to do the finger, and then we get tons of data points, but also we can look at their blood sugar overnight, right? So if there is, let's just say parasites or food sensitivities going, you can actually see a lot of fluctuation at night that leads to a poor quality sleep. So it's kind of like cool to see that data, but it is expensive, right?
Right.
So not everybody can afford. So if you're just, gonna experiment and stuff, I usually don't start with the Libre. It's more for people that are more complicated cases or people that really want data. Some people love data like I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Not everybody, but so then that's an option too. But otherwise you're talking about 3, finger pricks for 14 days. So it's quite a bit.
Right. Yeah. It's probably getting used to that too, right? Of doing that. So no, that's cool. That's not a too difficult thing to do, right? To sort of figure out what foods might be causing maybe more harm than good. Absolutely. And I find that it's also a motivating factor, right? It's one thing to know, okay, I got to stay away from that cookie because it's not good for me. But it's another thing to be like, wow, look what it's doing to my blood sugar levels.
Yes.
I'm going to be much more motivated to stay away from it because now I can see sort of on paper, if you will, or on a screen, what it's doing to my body. And just for the audience that don't know that, but basically, yeah, the increase in blood sugar levels increases insulin levels, which can lead to insulin resistance and possibly even diabetes long term, but also, contributes to weight gain, right? And then also it affects hormones. I mean, it's just a whole slew of things for sure. So, no, that's great that you have a program like that. I think that's really, really helpful, I'm sure, to a lot of people who want to sort of customize their diet a little bit more. And just, I mean, was there anything else that you wanted to, before we talk about sort of the take-home messages? One of the things, because obviously the topic is sort of weight gain or preventing weight gain or losing weight during this pandemic. I guess just what are your thoughts on, what kind of exercise can people do when they're at home a lot, or if they're able to go for walks, like, how many steps? Do you have any sort of tips about the exercise piece? And then some ideas, but maybe we can tie that in with like the top few things in terms of being successful with gravitating towards healthier eating and all of that. Like, if you don't mind elaborating on those.
Absolutely. So a couple of things there that I think are cool. So the way that I look at things, and I know I live a busy life and I know a lot of our, audience does too. I like things that are efficient, right? So my two favorite forms of exercise, and for very particular reasons, are if the weather is good, I love going for a walk, like a good pace, 30, 40-minute walk, right? So you not only have the fresh air, you see light, all those like elements, but also you just kind of get some good cardio there. Now, so that would be more on the cardio side of things. And we try, even wintertime, if possible, we try to walk every day. That's not absolutely impossible to walk outside or icy, right? Or raining really hard. So that would be like as much as possible. If you have stairs in the house, for example, I just like to be really mindful. And this may sound crazy, but anytime I go up the stairs, I tighten my core so that I'm actually using the right muscles to go up the stairs rather than just like the bad posture and you're just kind of like, messing it up. So even little things, if you're doing chores or sweeping the house and whatever, now that we're all in the house, tighten that core as you're doing that. So you're
the awareness of that. Yeah.
And you're aware. It's almost like you're exercising. I have some clients that I actually have asked them to wear gym clothes as they're doing house chores to turn that into an actual activity rather than a chore, right? Like when you
put them in that mindset.
Yeah, totally. But in terms of more elaborate exercising, and I'm actually doing an interview that's being released on the 29th in my YouTube channel with a kinesiologist. And what he's going to talk about that I asked him is what are the best forms of sort of that you can do at home exercise to boost your metabolic rate, to boost your metabolism, right? So we're specifically, the interview is happening next week, but I'm posting on the 29th. And we're going to be discussing specifically the HIIT training, right? The high intensity interval training, as well as the SIT, which is your circuit interval training, and the difference between the two, meaning that the SIT, it will be shorter duration, but harder, and HIIT a little longer duration, but not as to the extreme of your capacity. So he's going to walk through that and give some tips, but it's a really great exercise. And the last thing I want to say about that, I love it for myself. I do it as soon as I wake up, first thing in the morning. One, because as we wake up, our cortisol levels are higher, right? And cortisol has a lot to do with, putting weight in places that we may not want. So you use that extra cortisol energy to really sort of call it, burn it in through the exercise. But also I just feel it just gives you a burst of energy that you start your day in such a good pace with a higher metabolic rate. So everything you eat around that time, you're actually going to be able to, just expend more calories as you're consuming the food because your metabolic rate is increased because of the exercise. So I usually do HIIT first thing in the morning, and then the walks like later in the day before supper.
Getting
So
into a
that's what I
routine,
recommend.
right? Yeah. No, that's awesome. And then yeah, why don't you leave us with sort of these some top three take home messages so that because it's so that we're not resorting to having too much alcohol and putting
Yeah.
on liquid calories, for example, or grabbing too much chocolate or chips or whatever their go-to is, and focusing on vegetables and healthy eating.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the first that I was going to suggest is
Yeah.
specifically what you said, is being really mindful of our liquid calories, in the sense that if you're chewing on something, one, it takes you longer to consume it, but also it
Mhm.
helps trigger the satiety sensors in the body, right? So if you are, say, people sometimes forget that alcohol has almost twice as much calories as sugar or as carbs, right, on a per same amount basis, even if it doesn't taste sweet, right? So there's a lot of hidden calories in alcohol. So if you think of alcohol as liquid calories, if you think of juices as liquid calories, the sodas, or even putting sugar in coffee or tea and making it sweet, those are all what I call liquid calories. And really being really mindful of that. If you're going to have something sweet, go for better quality, say like in the snacks that we talked about, in a way that you have to chew, so brings satiety and slows it down for you. I feel is a good way to start moving away. I'm not saying, go cold turkey on no sugar, but switch forms, right? Just something that you have to chew on, and stay as close to like a raw honey or a pure maple syrup if you're going to sweeten something in there. So that would be like the first thing. When you cut
Yeah.
down liquid calories, I think it's such a win. And I know cutting down on alcohol is such an unpopular tip. Every time I say it, it's like, I know people are like,
I
but I
can't
think,
live without this. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, but I think alcohol has become such a coping mechanism that for most people, even if you don't have a problem with it, but you're just using it now for the pandemic, it makes you not your best, right? So your cognition goes down, energy levels go down, your liver have to work harder, your sleep is probably going to be a little disrupted as well. So long term, alcohol is really a depressant, right? And we are already feeling a little, some people a little blue, and mental health is such a big topic right now during this time. So alcohol has been, I would say, a very unhelpful coping tool for some people. And looking at it as maybe, oh no, go for a 1 week detox, or, do something that you
Or
take
maybe
only
even
it out.
doing, or maybe I don't know. I'm just thinking, those fizzy water makers, whatever they're called, right? And then
Mhm.
squeezing lemon juice in it, maybe some cucumber. So it kind of, you're kind of pretending to make these drinks or cocktails, but there's no
Yes.
alcohol in them, and they're healthy. Maybe berries. I'm sure you've got tons of those types of recipes or ideas, but yeah,
What I do
yeah,
myself, because I made a commitment, and like I said, this to somebody else, I'm not bragging, it's just a true fact. But when March break hit and the whole, COVID thing became more real, I decided to go 100% alcohol free for myself, right? And I'm not even recommending people necessarily do that, but I have not had a sip of alcohol. It's not even like a little glass of wine, purposefully, right? Because I'm, using this time to just work on my nervous system and all those other things. So anyways, but what I've been doing that I personally really enjoy is that I get my fancy crystal wine glass, and then I mix a half of, like you said, like a carbonated water, like a Gerolstein or a San Pellegrino. And the other half, I put a really pure cranberry juice with no sugar added, really tart.
mm,
And I use like the Canadian cranberries from Quebec, a brand called Patience that I love. So it's half and half. And sometimes I squeeze some lemon in there too. But it looks like wine. It feels like wine because of the glass, but
that's
it's
awesome.
just so refreshing, and it's tart. So it's just like so satisfying to me. So it's one little thing. You can still use the glassware, but just put something
It's
much
like,
healthier
that's right. Fool
inside it.
your brain. Yeah,
Yeah, just drink it
exactly.
a little bit. Same
Lovely.
color. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
great
that's for
idea.
sure one thing. The next thing that
Mhm.
I wanted to mention, just make sure. Yeah. So the next thing that I've been, getting more people to think about is really utilizing those lower starch carbohydrates in your diet, right? Again, for bringing that fiber and that satiety. So I usually say, for starting out and maybe you have not done a lot of, gut work, I usually recommend people start on the cooked vegetable side of things, as opposed to going all into a lot of the high levels of raw vegetables, right? Just to see if, we're not causing some fermentation, undesirable bloating going on in there. And usually the serving size that I recommend is, if you think of a half a cup, that's one serving of cooked vegetables, right? It is a quick little visual for people. And then start, like, if you have to start with one serving, that's it. And 2 and 3, aiming to get to 4 servings of vegetables in your lunch and in your supper, which is a lot of vegetables for some people, I know. But then you're so
4
full.
servings sort of in each, or in total of the day, in each meal, right?
Meal. I eat approximately 6 servings per meal myself. So it's possible. There's
Good
room.
for you.
But the cool thing about it is that then you're so satisfied after so much chewing as well. Meat, like if you're doing animal products, it's almost like a meat on the side approach, right? Because there's not as much room left in your plate. And it's a good fats of avocado, olive oil, all that good stuff. But what happens, especially for the quarantine 15, that we're looking to do something fast and quick to give you that, satisfaction, so you're not having the cravings and so on. I feel it's an easy tool, because all you have to do is measure that half a cup, right, per serving, and see how many of those can you fit in your plate. Just play with colors, have 1 or 2 colors of veggies per plate, or 2 to 3 colors of veggies per plate in those, serving sizes, and see, like, as you maintain that, becomes almost like a game. Like, how can I get to 4 servings of veggies per meal?
That's awesome.
Really fills you up, and then the cravings becomes almost like slowly becomes less of a problem, right? When you fill your plate with the good stuff on the front end. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All those micronutrients that are required, right? So that makes sense.
Especially with stress, right? That a lot of like B vitamins and magnesium. So really using a lot of the leafy greens, even if you have to steam them, right? If people don't like them raw for some reason. But yeah, so as much as possible, like lots of greens and yellows and reds and all the rainbow colors that normally we talk about. And I think the last thing that I wanted to just kind of, mention that I think is really easy to do for the most part, and helpful. And I love to use whole foods to kind of bridge that gap, right? Especially as people are getting started, and will be that gut health that we kind of mentioned a couple of times. So I usually ask people to do at the beginning is to try to incorporate a little something fermented in their diet, right? So if you've never done it before, the audience has never done it before, I go small. I go like a tablespoon worth. If you're talking like a dill pickle, for example, the real properly fermented ones, maybe half.
One from the fridge, right? Yeah.
Right.
Refrigerated.
Refrigerated. And if you look in the label, it should not have vinegar added to it. If it has vinegar, I wouldn't buy it.
That's
just
not
because it's not properly fermented, right? Like the vinegar is what's there to give that flavor. So if it's like a real brine pickle or a quality sauerkraut, I know a lot of times people are a little afraid of the vinegary taste of those fermented foods. So the brand that I have found to be the most mild, and now Costco sells it, which is crazy, is the sauerkraut by Wild Brine. So that brand, I think they're an American brand, but they are in grocery stores, and Costco now has the big tub of their sauerkraut, and it's super mild. It's really interesting, easy to add that 1 tablespoon, and then you can, increase it as it goes along to your diet, just to give a little bit more of something in there. And the one thing that I usually caution people is a little bit careful the kombucha side of things, right? Because I know kombucha is so popular, so fast, but seen so many clients actually react to really poorly, a lot of bloating and digestive upsets and gas and stuff with it. I don't know.
So be careful with that.
Yeah, a lot of them have a lot of sugar that are in the grocery store. Like if you were to ferment it at home, it tastes so vinegary. It doesn't taste delicious as the ones that we buy, right? So I think it's a question of...
They make it sweet so that you keep getting more, but then it's not maybe as healthy.
It's maybe like a glorified pop,
Exactly. Yes. No, these are really, really good tips. I think it makes a lot of sense, right? And focusing on that prebiotic, that stuff because we've got good bugs in our digestive system, in our gut, which is really good for the immune system, especially during this time. So having things that are fermented, that have the good bacteria in them, as well as the vegetables, which feed our good bacteria. I think that makes a lot of sense if we can incorporate that on a daily, every day, and having that visual, like you're mentioning, with the half a cup, that which is a serving, right? I think that might help a lot of people to kind of understand how much they should even be consuming. So these are awesome tips. Thank you so much. By the way, once this is sort of on the finished, I guess, if feel free to put in the links that you've got, like to your whether it's Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and or how to contact you, if you want to add that in so that our viewers can take a look and click away. That would be fantastic. So thanks again for sharing the screen with me today.
Absolutely.
And
I just wanted to mention one thing quickly. So the one, so I have this sort of done for you menu plan that I did if specifically because of the whole quarantine, right, going on.
Yes.
And it's a program that I call Take 30, which the goal there is to help you make your plan for the week under 30 minutes. And also each meal will take less than 30 minutes to go from cooking to eating healthy. And the program is a combination of this menu that you rotate through, as well as mix and match your recipes so that you can just keep repeating the same plan again, but it feels like a new meal every week, right? So what I would like to offer to your audience.
Yes, right. Sorry, I forgot. Go ahead. Yeah.
Especially for the whole quarantine thing. So I set up, and I'll put the link as well underneath, but I set up a promo code for you and everybody else called Willow. And that promo code will give everybody 50% off of the program. It is, just like really so important to me that people have access to, new support and recipes for this period of time. Like you said, staying healthy is
so it's basically like a meal plan, you were saying, with different recipes and that they can rotate through. Is that accurate to explain?
Yeah. So it's like a 1 week menu plan with the sort of recipe categories in it.
Right.
And then it all comes to a recipe app that you can have on your phone and tablet. So the app, you have lifetime access. And each of the 20 plus recipes have up to 3 flavor variations in each recipe. So that, week 1, you do the core one, and then week 2, you go through the plan again and you do variation 1, then variation 2, variation 3.
It doesn't get boring. Perfect.
Right? It's not boring. And also give people ideas and some of the bonus recipes on how to bring tons of those servings of vegetables in your diet as well, right? And everything is like a few ingredients only, so that it's not going to be complicated stuff that you have to have a cooking degree. It's not that type of cooking. Right. It's real food, easy to make. Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Juliana. Yes, please put the link on there and the promo code, and hopefully people will take advantage of that. Because that's going to be really helpful, I think, to get people, on track and feel healthy and amazing. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you for joining in. For those that are able to watch live, otherwise, if you can definitely catch the recording, I know it'll be on Juliana's pages as well, as we kind of distribute the information. So that's wonderful. Stay safe, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye.